How's it going, guys? Mr. Music Fan here, continuing my Nirvana slash discography review slash tribute to the band, and we're gonna go with an album review for their second studio album, the seminal Nevermind. So, without going into too much detail, basically the band signs to DGC Records. They drop Chad Channing, who played with them on tour to support Bleach. They pick up Dave Grohl, and they produce Nevermind with garbage drummer slash producer Butch Vig, and they come up with the album Nevermind. Smells Like Teen Spirit is released. The music video airs, and then the rest, as the cliche goes, is history, at least until 1994. But that's for later. So going with this seminal second album, Nevermind, with what we got with the Bleach album was more or less like Kurt's conformity to the Seattle grunge scene, which of course Sub Pop Records being the small little label the grunge label that it was only allowed Nirvana to do as much as that, as well as feeling confined to their scene, the Seattle grunge scene. So Bleach didn't really come off as melodious or as like really, except as the song about a girl kind of pointed ahead towards the future melodious sound that Kurt really desired. So after they moved to the David Geffen record label, DGC, Kurt then started to envision an album where it would be this complete combination between his fondness for pop melody and his fondness towards brutal aggression of the scene that he was a part of. And I mean, definitely the Pixies' Surfer Rosa definitely had a huge impact on Kurt, being that album in a way was the template for him of how he wished the second Nirvana album to sound like. So eventually they go with Butch Vig to produce this album, and what you get is an album that really, the success that came with this album really was unexpected, really even especially by Kurt and the rest of the band. And you know, the sound of this album really is essentially Kurt trying to marry those two of his most favorite aspects musically, which was pop melody and brutal musical aggression. It's a combination between grunge and pop melody and madness, brutality and singing harmonies. You know, like it was Kurt Cobain trying to meld these two great extremes that he extremely loved. And like, I mean, I believe one of his quotes was he wanted this album to sound like the Knack and Bay City Rollers being molested by Black Flag and Black Sabbath, which when you get past the production, when you get past the sheen, the pop clean production of this album, and if you hear the melodies, you can definitely hear that Kurt Cobain and the band really trying to do that, trying to meld these two different worlds together. And so what you ultimately get is an album that is as easily accessible to tons of music listeners, and at the same time is as aggressive and as very harsh sounding as anything, even though I will say that this is not as harsher as their next offering, but more on that when we get to that album review. So essentially this album, you know, is a blending, if not a perfect blending, then at least a close enough attempt to blend like pure singing and just angry brutality, and that's what you get with Nevermind. Lyrically speaking, to be perfectly honest, sounds more impressionistic. It's no secret that Kurt Cobain didn't toot himself to be a very confident songwriter. Like, and if I did my research correctly, oftentimes he would go into the vocal booth only having written the lyrics to the song in just minutes before. So a lot of it was very impressionistic. I would imagine, though, that those who would support his songwriting would say that, well, that's the beauty of the lyrics of Kurt Cobain, especially with this album, essentially that they come off of such a very pure and very unfiltered time and place in Kurt Cobain's life, where his lyrics really come off as very pure and very of the moment. And so, like, I mean, I can see it from that particular angle of how the lyrics to these songs are really starkly beautiful, and in other moments it's very brutally harsh and angst-ridden. Like I'm thinking of like beautiful in the sense of like the song Polly, for instance, like, and also thinking of the brutal aggression with songs like Stay Away, Territorial Pissings, and especially Smells Like Teen Spirit, especially thinking of those songs lyrically as being coming from a very angry place, considering Kurt Cobain wrote these songs from an angry place, essentially. But yeah, I can't say I have an opinion for the songwriting itself, except they do sound impressionistic, but not in the bad way. 4-point grading system for this album. First point, music originality. For its time and for the timing of this album, that it came the way it did, especially with Teen Spirit, I would have to say that Nirvana, especially with this album, I mean, there have been more interesting grunge bands that have come out along with Nirvana. Like I name Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, but I think no other band caught the spirit of the times and caught the attention of the public quite like Nirvana. And the songs of this album, especially Teen Spirit, really had to do with timing. People were searching for music and were searching for a band that could encapsulate their feelings of rage and emotion, but at the same time something that was very accessible. So the originality for that particular sense, I will give a 4 out of 5. The only reason why I don't give it a rate higher is that the fact that, again, I've heard more interesting grunge bands than I've mentioned them before, but to their credit, they really capture that spirit at the right place at the right time. Songwriting, I would have to give somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4. It's, again, I mean, they're more impressionistic than anything else, and of course I can understand that they add the purity of Kurt's words and his emotion to these songs, but at the same time, in my opinion, they don't really take a huge heart to me all that much. Although I do understand of why they lend themselves to an appeal, especially to the songs of this album. So I'll give it a nice, decent 3.5 out of 5. A decent rating. Likability, as I said before, being not a huge Nirvana fan as I am, it's an album I listened to tons and tons of times as a teenager, but nowadays it hasn't really. It's not that I don't listen to this album ever. I think over the course of the few years, I've only been listening to it a lot less. But especially for this review, I've come to kind of like appreciate this album. I really come to admire and appreciate how Kurt Cobain's ambition of blending these different styles of, I mean, not different styles, but these two different dynamics of music together. And they come off really well on this album, and they came off well to, again, right place at the right time to the public. And yeah, I mean, so likability, I'll have to give like a decent 4 out of 5. It's not an album I listen to all that much anymore, but it's an album that every once in a while I fairly enjoy. As for Nevermind, as a complete package for the songs, I would have to say that, like, I mean, having just listened to this album again just now, I would have to say that despite my lack of relation towards it, like, opinion, I will give this album a 4.5 out of 5. The only detraction point is that that again, I don't gravitate towards this album as much as I did, but I keep the 4.5 in the sense of like I admire its cultural significance to culture and to music. So before this video goes on any longer, this is my review of Nirvana's Nevermind. Leave your comments in the comment section below. What do you think? Do you love Nevermind? Do you hate it? Why or why not? And this has been a very lengthy but special album review for a very seminal album. So, this has been Nirvana, Nevermind. I'm Mr. Music Fan. Take care, guys, and next time we will go to In Utero. Peace out.